DC United, the very kit that I'm wearing right now. Yeah, look at that. 4 stars. You guys know what that means? That means they have won 4 Major League Soccer titles, but it has not been smooth sailing for DC last couple seasons. They finished with 26 points, 4 wins, 18 losses, 11 draws. Their head coach is now Rene Weiler, their top scorer. He is out the door. Christian Benteke, he is gone after multiple seasons with them, including a season where he contended for Golden Boot. I can't remember if he won it. He might have won Golden
He
Boot this
did. He
season.
did win.
Yeah, he won Golden Boot the season before. It was a rough season for them. They missed the postseason. This was now the 6th straight year, a franchise record, that they missed the postseason. Christian, let's talk about DC United. They need something to turn this historic franchise around.
Yeah, I think they made a lot of moves and got a mixed bag going into this season. I think that they're looking not for a rebuild, but a retool, right? They have, like you touched on, a 6-year playoff drought, which is the longest in franchise history. They conceded 66 goals last year. So, I mean, even just by fixing that back line, they're instantly going to be a little bit better, I would hope. Like you touched on, Benteke out. I think their attack was really inconsistent last season because they were banking on him keeping that form of winning the Golden Boot, and then he just kind of fell off. So I think the signings they brought in this year will hopefully fix that.
And the whole Benteke saga was really strange because he announced that him and the club are mutually parting ways. And we don't really know if it was more from Christian Benteke and wanting to pursue other opportunities. As far as I know, he still hasn't been picked up. He is eligible to be picked up by another Major League Soccer team. It kind of shocks me. I know we're not here to talk about Christian Benteke per se, but it kind of shocks me that there's not another team, Galaxy, who really needs attacking help, who hasn't gone out and signed him. And does it interest you at all? Because it was weird to me that DC United let him go. Like, yes, it was a down season, but I mean, if this was a mutual, agreement to part ways, it was just weird that DC would want to let him go after he won Golden Boot the year before.
I think Benteke is getting up there in age, and we saw prominent decline last year. And then they went and I guess we'll use this as a segue into what they've done and went and signed Ty Baribo from Philadelphia Union, who I think can do what Benteke was doing in 2024. I'm not calling a Golden Boot season, but I think more goals will come from that than keeping Benteke.
Like, he's a consistent goal scorer. That's why when I heard about the news of them bringing in Baribo from Philadelphia Union, it was a solid move. I don't think he's honestly a super flashy scorer. I don't think he's someone who's going to win Golden Boot, but he is someone who is going to consistently score goals for you, and that's what DC United needed. And not only did they bring in Ty Baribo, which was a really good interleague signing, but they also went out. I hope I pronounced this right. They brought Luis Mutianu, striker on a club record fee, $7 million plus add-ons. So, I mean, when you look at what DC United's doing with their attack, a place that they really struggled with last season, they scored 29 goals. I mean, Messi, how many goals did Messi score last season?
Right about there.
He pretty much,
maybe more.
Yeah, he pretty much in all competitions outscored the entire DC United roster. So I love seeing a team that had an obvious, hindrance to them, and that was their attacking prowess, actually go out and attempt to fix that with Baribo and Mutianu, who they're hoping comes in and right away can help provide some goals for this team who are struggling to find it.
Yeah, I mean, they spent $4.6 million on Baribo alone. So that right there, they're expecting a big return. And then on Muntiano, they're bringing in as a DP who won the Golden Boot in his first year with the Romanian Super League. So immediately right there, you're bringing in a guy who you spent big money, like with league experience to score goals, who also, by the way, tied the MLS record last year with the most goals through the first couple of games when he scored 6. And then you bring in another guy with not as much experience in the league, but more flash to him, right, in Mutiano. So I think that – and then also Caden Clark. Caden Clark will also kind of bolster that midfield as well.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I love that you brought up Caden Clark. This is a kid that we watched, Christian, when we first got into the league. You know, he was. I keep calling him kid because he's still what 22 years old right now.
I think he's 21.
But when we
Well, he is
first
22.
watched
You're right, 22.
him in the league, he was a really good and promising prospect for the New York Red Bulls. And he was one of my favorite players to watch in the league. He's kind of bounced around a little bit now. He finds his way to DC United. Hopefully, this kind of, I hate to say, rejuvenates his career. Because, like, he is, like we said, he's really talented and he should help in supporting that midfield, providing for these attackers. And he's also a guy, Christian. I don't know if people talk about it enough. He can go out and find his own goals. Like he's got an attacking
Well,
foot on him as well.
not only that, but he creates goals, right? I mean, he had
Mm.
5 assists and 31 appearances for Montreal, so he'll be a good asset into that midfield. But let's not shy away from the fact that they also bolstered their defense a little bit and adding an experienced goalkeeper in Sean Johnson and another experienced defender in Sean Nealis.
I love what they're doing. I think this is the proper way, and some of these teams that we're going to be talking about today, these bottom 5 teams of the league, I wish they were rebuilding or retooling, as you say, like DC United is, because I love the fact that I think when you're a team that's really, really struggling in this league, it's hard to go out and search other leagues to just change your offense, your defense, just like that. I'm happy you brought up the defense. They allowed 65 goals last year. They had a goal differential of minus 36. That is absolutely horrible. So not only are they bolstering their attack, they're boosting their back line with MLS experienced players. Sure, these guys have been around, but Sean Johnson, people don't talk about. He was still really good for Toronto FC. Even after he left New York City FC, he did really well for that. He was one of the bright spots to the Toronto team that's also been struggling for multiple years now. So he's someone who I would trust to have in my goal, which I don't think they've had a good goalkeeper since Bill Hamid left the club years back. I think they've kind of been rotating, trying to find that right piece. And so I love the fact that they brought in Sean Johnson. And then you talk about Sean Nealis, another former Red Bull player, someone who he's not the flashiest player. He's not like MLS all team worthy, but he's another consistent guy, and that's what makes me excited about how they're rebuilding, retooling this team, is the fact that they're just going out and finding consistency. That's what you need to do when you're trying to turn a franchise around. Let's find the consistency and then build off that to hopefully, elevate us back to the upper tier of the table.
I think key word is experience here, right? You're talking about a back line that conceded 60 plus goals last year, and then you bring in a goalkeeper who, I mean, when you think of Toronto last year, you don't think of a great defense. You think of a great goalkeeper. And he, at 35 years old last year, had 111 saves, which was 5th in the MLS. And then he's going to be behind a back line with now a Sean Nealis, who had 187 appearances in all competitions with the New York Red Bulls, which, by the way, is second all-time for the Red Bulls defenders. And then they added, with the first overall pick, and Nikola Markovic, who was on the all-ACC freshman team.
Also bringing in, I wanted to add in, they also on that back line, before you continue, brought in Kasuka Kuwo. I'm going to butcher his name. Kasuko Kuroka.
The Japanese fullback.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is with Sean Nealis and Sean Johnson, and you bring in Markovic into that back line, you may not see instant gratification, but that's going to be good for for Markovic to come in and learn from these guys who have been in the league for so long and have so many appearances, so many minutes on the field that he can just sit next to them and just like reap the benefits.
Christian, the last thing we have to talk about before getting into your X factors and my one key to success, they changed coaches midseason last year. Renee Weiler comes in. What does he need to do? Maybe you can use this as a segue for your X factors, and please let the fans, since this is a brand new podcast, let them know what you're going to do with your X factors. But what does he need to do to really show the club, hey, I'm the manager you're going to want to go with for the future here? What should his goal be this season after, it could just be don't finish last again, but like, do you think they have higher hopes for him this year?
I think you have to have higher expectations. I think you spent money. He's now had an entire offseason with the team. If you look at their stats from when he was hired under the regime, they were at 1.18 points per game. And then when he got hired rest of the season, they were at 0.88 points per game. I think that they saw a decline, but I mean, that's going to happen when you hire a new manager midseason. I don't think it was big enough of a drop off to worry, but I think with the roster turnover, he should be able to insert his tactical mindset.
All right, so let's go ahead. Should we do your X factors first, or should we do my key to success first?
However you want to do it.
I'll go ahead and give my key to success. So for each team that we talk about, I'm going to have one key to success. This is something that it is what it is. This is the one thing you need to do to find success in the league in 2026. And I'm not talking about this is something you need to do to win the league. I'm talking about with where you're at in the standings, in the table, what do you need to do to improve? And my key to success for DC United, we've talked about it. We've touched on it so much. It's very simple. Find your offense. Right? You were absolutely abysmal in scoring goals. You could have put my grandmother out there and she could have done better scoring goals last year than you guys. You brought in Baribo. You brought in Mutianu. You have Caden Clark. There's no excuse now. You have to go out and find goals. If you can't score in this league, which, I mean, let's face it, Christian, this is a score-heavy league, right? That's why it's my favorite league in the world. There's so much scoring. The defense is getting better, but the star power we have in the attacking front end is greater than what we have on the back lines, which makes this, we see some high scores in this league. If you can't score, you're not going to do well in this league. It's just how it is. So find your offense. That's got to be the first thing. Let your defense find its consistency over time.
Yeah. So I'm going to go over 3 X factors for each team. These are going to be things that if they can accomplish successfully, then I think that's going to be a great season for them. Kind of touching off what you said, my first X factor is roster turnover. Here I'm thinking, how fast can the new signings mesh and adapt? Can Baribo take that next step? I'm talking 12, 15 goals. I think if he can score between 12 15 goals, I think DC becomes a playoff contender. Why this matters, I think United lack consistent finishing in 2025, as you're saying, and Baribo must be clinical and not just active. Branching off of that, I think Pirani's consistency, or the lack of, is a big thing here. When Pirani is confident and clicking, DC's attack flows. We get that midfield going, the attack's going to come. I think when he disappears, their creativity collapses. My swing factor here is he could either finish as a top 10 MLS number 10, or he's going to be replaced by midsummer. Also, coaching continuity, as we talked about with Weiler. I think tactical clarity is a must here. We've got to replace chaos. Clear identity is essential. We're talking compact defending and vertical attacks. My X factor question here is, can Weiler get buy-in early, or does the team start slow again?
And so it's going to be very interesting to see how DC United fares in 2026. Christian, after your X factors, my key to success, everything we've talked about, how excited are you for the future of DC United heading into this season, which is a club they're looking to get back to the postseason? Can they even do that this year?
I think as a DC United supporter, the way you look at this is you can't get any worse. You finished last in the league. I think they spent money where the club is investing into the roster. You have an experienced manager who's got an entire offseason to develop the team. I think that DC United could definitely contend for a playoff spot.
And I would love to see DC United back in the postseason. We haven't seen a successful DC United team, I feel like, since we had Wayne Rooney and Luciano Acosta there back in, I think it was like 2019, 2018, 2019.
6 years ago.
Yeah. Time flies. 2020 is, if we're looking at it, the 2020 season.